everyone, and welcome to some very gay, very ladylike bingo here at the Ann Lister Research Summit. This is your co-host, Amanda.
And this is Laurel. As some of you may already know, we are the co-hosts of Very Gay, Very Ladylike, the podcast, and we have geared the first season of our podcast to the historical Ann Lister, so we are super excited to be joining in a historical Ann Lister Research Summit today. In our second season, which we are about to start on October 5th, we are going to be delving into the lives and history of other amazing queer women. So if you are not already familiar with us, feel free to check us out. We'd love to have you.
We're all about the historical ladies. So we have some readings for you.
We do, yeah. So we're going to read the next 3 readings for your bingo cards. So we can go ahead and get started.
Let's do the thing.
All right. So reading number 1. This comes from the transcription blog of Steph Galloway. And this diary entry was written on Friday, 27 May, 1825. And Anne writes, "Incurred a cross just before getting up, thinking of Mrs. Barlow. Went down to breakfast at 10, came upstairs at 11, mended my glove. Miss Walker of Cliff Hill and ditto of Crow Nest called. Seeing only my aunt left their cards for me. I went out to the workmen just after the Walkers came in at 11:30, got back at 1:30. From 2 to 4:15, wrote 3 pages and the ends and under the seal to Mrs. Norcliffe. Went to the workman at 4 35/60, which is a totally normal way to write the time. Got back at 6 3/4. Dinner at 7. Another workman came today for the first time, Joseph Mallinson. In the evening from 8:30 to 10, downstairs. Wrote 3 pages and the ends to Isabella Norcliffe. Came upstairs at 10 10/60, again, totes normal, at which hour barometer 1/4 degree below changeable and Fahrenheit 51. Fine day. Read volume 1 Rousseau Confessions, as usual, while accordingly curled my hair, then wrote the above of today." I love that she's writing the time like that.
I do too, and I love that this entry has Miss Barlow, Miss Walker of Cliff Hill, and Tib. It's got all 3 of our leading ladies.
It does. And she's incurring a cross. Like, there's a lot happening in these few short sentences.
So many of our favorite things in this little reading.
Truly. Oh, this is the reading that we were supposed to read this day.
This is the Anne that we know and love.
It is the Anne that we know and love. So reading number 2 from the transcription blog of Was Always a Great Pickle, which is an excellent name.
Pickles.
Pickles. From Friday the 18th of March, 1825. And Anne writes, "Quiet all last night and merely touched a little this morning, her cousin apparently quite gone. Breakfast at 11 3/4. It was evident all this morning she was pleased at what I told her yesterday. It satisfied her to find that Mariana, too, had yielded, but she has no idea of her having done it since marriage. Though she said she saw us, Mrs. Barlow and I, farther from each other than ever, yet she knew I loved her from the confidence I placed in her, and she would now be my friend always. Mrs. Barlow better this morning, though feeling weak and tired. We went out at 2 10/60, called at number 24 Place Vendôme. Mrs. Barlow went to Miss Harvey and the Middletons, while I went to Mademoiselle de Saint. Monsieur de Fontway with her in the midst of her packing, yet she told me much. She now knows what she has to expect, and if the match with Captain Gedreau cannot take place, she must make up her mind to it. They have had a stealth tete-a-tete by means of Mr. Middleton in Mrs. M.'s room. Mademoiselle de Saint gave me a little brown silk purse spotted with steel beads she had netted for me. She is to go on Monday. She wished goodbye to the Middletons and Miss Harvey. They go to Fontainebleau tomorrow on the way to Switzerland and Italy. Mrs. Barlow and I went to Mallett's Bank, Rue Mont Blanc, number 13, when she drew for the £70 sent me by my uncle, for which I received exchange at 25. 1,750 francs, which deducted 1% commission and brokerage left clear 1,732 francs, 50 cents. After this, we went shopping, changed the scarlet shawl I had brought for my aunt for a white one, etc. Got home at 6, dinner immediately. Tea at 8:30, fine, frosty, cold day, but sunny and not therefore as cold as yesterday. Fahrenheit 34 degrees at 11 a.m., 36 degrees at 2 p.m., and 35 degrees at 11 p.m. Just before going out, received a letter from Miss Henrietta Crompton, Micklegate, York, dated March 14. 3 pages and the ends under the seal and the top of page 1 written across. Her brother Rooks and his wife at Nice, and her brother Joshua in Italy. She has had a letter from Breadalbane McLean and says, Miss McLean, I fear, is not very well. Mrs. Hunt, the bride, and her husband, who were lately robbed and murdered near Naples, was Miss Gilbert Crompton's niece, Caroline Isham. I suppose this never occurred to me, though I now remember she was to marry a gentleman of this name. Wrote the above of today and had done all by 11 and 10/60ths.
Nobody just could put the minutes after time, apparently. So this is
No.
what I'm learning, is that we just divided the hours by 60ths rather than just saying
Yes.
how many minutes it was after the hour.
Also, in terms of fractions, going back to my younger years of fractions in school, she could have just wrote 1/6 and that would have been the same.
Right, exactly.
Geez,
But
Anne.
no, 60ths. No lowest common denominators.
Right. So that was reading 2.
And now I'm going to come to you with reading number 3. So this is from the transcription blog of Extract by Marlene Oliveira. This entry is from Saturday, the 5th of January, 1839. Fine frosty morning, the ground white with a sprinkling of snow. Fahrenheit 37 degrees inside and 32.5 degrees outside now at 9 a.m. and breakfast in half hour. Then had Anne upstairs looking at Mr. Harper's lithographs that he has given me and at the plotting out of the Northgate ground. Then at accounts. Booth came at 12 1/4. Okay, now she's using lowest common denominator. Anne had Samuel Washington. I did not see him, but gave him my rent list to give him for the purpose of his collecting my stoups and other small rents, pew rents, etc. Had Booth half hour. Again, all of a sudden we're using common denominators. Then had him again after he had dined with the servants till after 4. He paid Firth, who came between 2 and 3, several bills for Northgate, etc. Booth knows not what Mr. Harper will allow him for Northgate, but what he has done there has cost him £200. He is to go on Monday to Mr. Richard Pollard at our near Huddersfield to settle about the Sun Wood quarry. If I am not to leave the face of the street open, I must get no more in Mr. Pollard's land. Talked over my new idea of a tram road from Listerwick to Wiscombe, to have the coal staith as was intended if the inclined plane had been done. Said I would merely wall up a plain wall at Northgate. 21 roods of walling at 27 shillings would be a thing I could know the cost of. If I thought more of the tram road, I should not build the square building Banksman's house and lumber room at Listerwick. Said I would do as little as I could. Northgate would have cost, I thought, on the wrong side of 9,000, and the colliery above 7, and I had laid out 5,000 on this place, Shibden Hall. When Booth went away, had Robert Mann, he much against the tram road, said the easiness of the draught depended on the size of the wheels, and that one horse could drag more in a cart than in a tram road wagon on a tram road. Did not think my having the stalth at Wiscombe. Did not think it would much increase the quantity of coal sold. They would rather come to Listerwick, and if I would only sell at Wiscombe, this would be the way to drive many carts away to other pits. Besides, the road would be too expensive to pay. The rails would be so expensive, 1 ton would not do more than 15 yards. I calculated 800 yards long of road, double line, equals 1,600 per 15 yards, equals 106 and 10/15 tons of rails at £10 per ton, equals 1,066 pounds, 13 shillings, 4 pence, and I said I had calculated the rails at 1,000 pounds. Jesus, I feel like Saran Jones. With the 222 pounds, 17 shillings, and 6 pence.
This is very specific. I can't imagine writing this level of detail in my journal ever.
I can't imagine remembering this level of detail to then go somewhere else and write it down.
Absolutely not.
Well, said Robert, the digging would cost 100 pounds, and then you have the stone sleepers to lay. Well, said I, if all this be true of the tram road, how could the inclined plane have answered? There is something in all this that strikes me. If 3 acres could be sold, a penny a load or this quantity would be 240 pounds per annum to pay expense of horses and interest in outlay. After Robert had Stephen Schofield, then paid the 3 outs of doors men's wages, then had Joseph Mann till 6:55, then went into the cellar, 1 bottle Anne's old port, dinner at 7:05. Letter from Mariana, York. Ooh, saucy. She went to York per mail on the 27th ultimo with Mr. Wilbally Crew and his 2 sons. Will be here on Tuesday per mail to stay till Miss Milna picks her up the next day. Mr. Crossland's bill for horses to church and Mr. Jubb's bill for attending the servants, £10, 13 shillings, 0 pence. There is George Thomas, the farming man. This cannot go on. A tendrie after dinner. Asked Anne about the flower garden being sown down. She would never say anything about it. I am always interested about her concerns and her sisters as if they were my own. How different is Anne? Had just written so far at 8:35 when coffee. Anne read French, and then I read the London paper and a little of the Halifax Guardian till came upstairs at 10:35 p.m., at which hour Fahrenheit 34 degrees outside and 37 degrees inside. Rough windy snow and rain showery day. Thunder between 8 and 9 p.m., with Anne till 11:55.
It was cold AF in their house. 37 degrees inside?
You might as well live outside.
Only a 3-degree difference.
Yeah, that's not enough. You might as well be camping.
You might as well be camping in the dead of winter. That sounds awful.
That's terrible.
No wonder people died young. Goodness gracious.
They were freezing to death in their own house.
Someone needs to light a fire.
Ooh, a sexy fire.
Ooh, sexy fire. Anne had plenty of those.
She sure did. Well, that's all of the readings that we have for you all.
Yes, thank you again for having us. We hope that the summit goes exceedingly well and that your bingo cards, that you're all winners. And yeah, remember to stay gay.
And stay ladylike.